The other thing you could do, we used to do it in school. It's a school rule. If you really wanted to, put your car keys in the fridge and turn it off. That way,
Turn it all the way down. Yeah.
You'll never. That was.
It's not even when it's on. It's fine. It's if it kicks on and off, you're gonna hear.
Yeah.
But
No, that was.
shouldn't be too picky till we have a studio.
That's true.
Something.
But that was a rule in school. Put your car keys in the fridge. Unplug the fridge. You'll never forget to plug the fridge back in because you always have to go for the car keys at the end.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a film thing or if it was just a school thing, but we never lost any food. So it was good.
Did somebody forget to drive home?
No, never lost any food. We had to do that at my house once. We shot a Pita Pit commercial in my house. Not a real Pita Pit commercial, but a student Pita Pit commercial.
Like a spoof or a very serious Pita Pit commercial?
It was this woman at a table, much like this one, and she was breaking up. She was breaking up with somebody, and of course, the camera tilts, and she's breaking up with a fast food burger for fresh thinking, healthy eating for Pita Pit. It was my job to create the burger. So I had to make it look disgusting. So I grilled it in green food coloring.
Okay.
And then kind of screwed up the bun. And then it was also my job to make the burger cry. So I had blue food coloring, and on cue, the burger tear went drip, drip.
Practical effects, no animation involved.
No animation. It didn't look amazing because the burger was kind of crying from the top of the burger, but it did drip down.
You just stood above it with a little dripper?
We had it pool up, and I think the angle was from just low enough that you didn't see the top, and then it just rolled down the side of the bun. And then we just added the little drip, drip. Pita Pit, fresh thinking, healthy eating. So it was fun. And we didn't lose any food in the fridge because somebody's car keys
were in the fridge. It's interesting to take something like an established brand like that, and when you're in school, I don't even know. Could you present that to Pita Pit later as a possible ad campaign?
Niagara College owned it.
Okay.
Basically anything we made, they had ownership in.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they could do. Pita Pit probably wouldn't like it, but because it was for education, they can't do anything about it. We did.
It's true. You get away with a lot just if it's for educational purposes or like a nonprofit or something like that.
We did a Smirnoff commercial, which Smirnoff wouldn't have liked. It was in a couples therapy class, and this woman was just bitching about her husband in front of the therapist, and her husband was just sitting there like all pissed off, and he looked up behind the therapist's desk, and there was a bottle of Smirnoff, which, wouldn't really be in a therapist's office, at least in plain view.
It's a different kind of therapy.
And he looks at the Smirnoff bottle and looks at the therapist. The therapist smiles at him. And it wouldn't be good for Smirnoff.
No. I remember a lot of beer. I can think of Bud Light commercials that kind of have a strange sexist vibe to them sometimes. I don't know how they would do in today's market, but
I think the best one we did, the most realistic one, would have been our Cialis commercial. I don't know why we did a Cialis. I guess because they're funny, because they're always try to get people out of the house. So this father's cleaning this brand new Dodge Charger, and his son comes home and he's like, "Hey son, why are you home so early?" And the son's like, "Well, I kind of got suspended." And the dad's like, "Oh, I want you to take this car, drive around, and think about what you did." The son's like, "Huh?" And the dad walks away, and the son gets in the car and drives away, and then Cialis pops up.
They're really clever, the Cialis commercials, just because it's this weird misdirection where, until the very last moment, you'd have no idea where it's going.
The online ones now, they pop up on YouTube videos, and they have nothing to do with anything. It's, "Are we still good for lunch tomorrow?" "Yes, Cialis. Ask your doctor if it's right for you."
Not as much thought put into that.
Or, "I'm really excited for the movies tomorrow night. Me too. Cialis. Ask your doctor if it's right for you. Like, what if I wanted to go for lunch? What if I wanted to go see a movie? It's not anything. It's really misdirecting.
I guess the people directing it would, they themselves might just speak in codes like that all the time because they're too afraid to ask, hey, so when are we going to do it?
That's true. Maybe.
I popped to Cialis. We had a timer. Looking at my
24
watch.
hours. No,
24
40,
hours.
sorry, 48 hours. It's the weekender.
The weekend. How is that different than Viagra?
Viagra's 24.
24.
From experience, but
Does get a little bit personal.
yeah. No, Viagra's 24. Cialis is 48. Viagra might actually only be 12. I feel like it is 24, though. Same price, but Cialis will get you the effects for 48 hours. Not the erection for 48 hours.
God, I would hope not. That would be... They call that priapism? That's the thing where they have to, like, jam a needle in there and drain you?
Yeah.
I think it's... I don't know. I've seen some YouTuber go over that entire process and how I think there's some kind of spider that can bite you and it'll cause the exact same process where you just have an erection that lasts for a very long time. And if you don't do something about it, you might lose.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
And depending on... I imagine it would hurt at some point.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, this is a good PSA. If your arousal does last more than 4 hours, call your doctor. It's a good idea.
Just visit the emergency room if you're really, really desperate.
Yes.
I wonder what the wait times would be like if you were to go through the whole triage process and everything.
I would feel as though it'd be fairly important because you could lose an appendage.
Yeah, but I also watched an old man have a heart attack in the waiting room of the St. Catherine's Hospital, and he was in there out of
How
concerns for a heart attack.
serious was the heart attack?
Pretty serious. He was. You could see before he was having it, he was sweating like crazy. His entire face was red. That's why he was there, believing he was having a heart attack, and then dropped on the floor in agony, and then they rushed him in. So you can have a pretty serious condition and still have to wait, at least in this local area, and I imagine the cities.
I would sit there and I would make everybody feel uncomfortable because that's on the end. It'd be like, I took Viagra. It's been about 3 hours. I'm getting kind of worried. Okay, well, sit, wait. Okay, I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna wait.
Just man spread.
Boxer shorts,
Yeah.
not boxer shorts, gym shorts. Yeah. If
Spandex.
anybody asks, be like, try to call my doctor. So make people feel really uncomfortable. They'd be like, yeah, you can go ahead of us.
Maybe. Or you could just overdo it and be like, yeah, I think I might die. Got a malfunction going on.
Turning blue. Help.
Yeah.
No. I guess that's kind of the theme of this entire thing. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. We started talking about... Did we start talking about keys in a refrigerator? And we got on Viagra. So.
And that led to boners that don't go away.
Yeah, so you never know what could happen.
It's a podcast.
It is.
I think we didn't introduce ourselves last time.
No, we didn't. I realized that when I was listening back.
So, my name's Eric.
And I'm Jesse. We're Niagara based. We're trying this out. It's really fun. It's actually nice to... I looked forward to it all week, especially the multiple cameras, because editing the last one was just not fun. It was fun, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
This one will be fun.
And if you're watching the pilot, I don't know if we're going to call this pilot number 2 or not, but if you're watching the pilot of this, you're going to notice a difference, I guess, in the quality. But
We're still working on it, but we're producing. We're not overthinking. We're just getting out there and talking, and hopefully it's entertaining, as I said.
which, from the technical side, I think we've got it. We just, it's just about putting the effort in. From the the set too would be nice. From the broadcasting point of view, I have a lot of room to improve, so it's all practice for me. I'm so impressed with radio voices now because I keep paying attention every time we go to some kind of show or even when I'm just listening to the CBC or something like that. People must practice a lot to get that good at it, and not flub things or just to sound interesting. It's really an art.
What is, and that's why, well, going back to last week, that's why some people drop out of the presentation part of my course. They can't handle it. It's not for them, or, You know, they just realize they're not good at it. You have somebody with a speech impediment, you know what? Probably not the best thing in front of the camera.
It really depends. As a guest, it's fine because you have somebody to guide you through things. But if you're thinking about hosting something yourself, having to go on the fly is really going to mess with you.
And as a host, you're never really going on the fly because they're always counting down in your ear. You're always aware of what's happening. So when you're just talking, like you're aware. So they're saying, okay,
30 seconds till
30
commercial.
seconds to commercial break.
Yeah.
Stretch it out, speed it up, wrap it up. Or they might, depending on the production, they might not be in your ear, but there's somebody right by the camera that is telling you to, speed it up or extend or whatever. So it's looking interested while not completely paying attention, because you have to pay attention to the guest. You also have to pay attention to your cues. I'm not good at it.
Must be a lot more relaxing for the guest point of view, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Just get to be part of the entire show, but not have to put that kind of production into it.
They're the one that's talking. They're the ones that are engaging, but they don't have to.
Plus, they're going to have the story and they're going to have the perspective they're offering. So they're being interviewed about things.
Yep. So it's a fun process. I'm not good at that part of the process. I can talk, but if there was somebody directing that camera over there and I had to make interest to you, it would take quite a few shows to get it down pat. It's what schooling was, and I didn't take presentations, so I'm sure it's something you would learn, but...
I got really good, at least at the presentation side of things, by the time I was, presenting the thesis project. So you have certain seminars where you have to show your progress and things like that. It was really nerve-wracking preparing for those things, but you're so prepared to go into them. You know every single thing that they could possibly ask you. It really makes things smooth in transition, because I honestly winged it through most of school when I was doing those things, especially in grade school and high school, which I probably wasn't that bad at that either. But when you know what you're doing and you're very sure of yourself, it's very easy to talk confidently. Which, when it comes to this, I'm not sure if half the things I'm saying are BS, so makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, we're not exactly the best for fact checking, but it is purely conversational.
That's what the internet's for.
At least in this form. It would be neat to get to the point where we have people commenting saying that you're wrong.
It's gonna get really bad really fast. I would imagine.
It'd be neat,
because they're gonna say that we're wrong, but like in a very, very furious way. I would imagine, especially if it's something they take very seriously. So, which. We could take that advice and stick to our domains of knowledge, but it's more fun to probably say things that are entirely untrue sometimes.
Well, the older I get, the more I find my knowledge comes from experience. I've been out of school for a while, 5 years this year, actually. So it's
a long time.
Most learning is from experience, at least with what we do. So my stories and my knowledge, be it real or false, have come from just life lessons.
There's a lot more repetition involved in that too, because in school you just learn the thing once and, you might remember bits and pieces, but if you do something over and over again and learn from that, it's kind of more solid in your memory.
That's true. That's why setting up this set every week will be faster and faster. You'll know right where it has to go, as long as we don't keep changing things drastically.
Well, it'd be nice to have incremental upgrades. I'd really like something to make it feel a bit more sound boothy, like some foam or something, which can work as a backdrop too, because it's pretty generic. Get rid of the echoes. It'll get rid of the sound of running appliances.
Without the keys.
Yeah. I don't want to shut my fridge off. I really don't.
I know.
Food is worth keeping the fridge on.
Last time I shut my fridge off would have been when we were filming the sitcom pilot, and I think I had keys in and the two actresses had keys in, so we were fairly safe.
Mm-hmm. What else could really... The fridge is the biggest one. I don't know.
The stove is off. It wouldn't make noise. Air conditioning in the summer, heater in the winter.
True. Good thing this house doesn't have very good ventilation. You wouldn't hear it if it kicked on at all.
That is a good thing. It's one of the good things. When they rent out the house, they can say it's podcast friendly.
It could.
To an extent.
It's a very quiet street, very good neighborhood.
It is. we're right in front of the bay window. Nobody drives by, so you can't hear anything.
No headlights creeping through or anything.
No. They think we're doing something because it's a nicely illuminated room.
I guess that's sort of the reaction we got last time. It's like, well, at least you know when you're on air.
It's true. It's our own on-air light.
I want to get one of those. I don't know how much we want to talk about. I won't go into too much detail, but we went to a recording studio, I guess about a month ago or so now. That's an interesting space to be in. I've been in one before that. I'm sure you've been in places much more similar to that before.
Yes. That one was interesting because of how kind of like, and it was a great self-funded built studio. The last one I was in was on the complete opposite scale in Toronto, like multi-million-dollar recording studio, Rush. Like some of the big ones. Wow. It was nice. There was a moment when I was at the studio where I got thinking, I am peeing in the same urinal. That like it's
that
true. It's just one men's washroom, so they had to go without going. Not that it's that big a deal because it's 2018, but there are certain gray area rules for recording studios. So if the band is big enough, they will have it in their contract that, there's certain rules like no smoking inside are allowed in the studio, and they won't question what is being smoked because sometimes that's all part of the band's process.
I imagine it is for a lot of rock bands.
So it was neat being there. The room itself, the main recording room, just unbelievable. Like it was just, you walked in and it was completely silent. You couldn't hear anything, and you could almost feel it. Like it was so sealed off. It was just still.
I've wanted to go into one of those rooms before where they, like one of the quietest rooms on the planet, just because they say, you can hear your blood flowing. You take into account so many different sensations you wouldn't normally just because there's no other stimuli around. It sort of just sensory deprivation at that point, which sensory deprivation is something I'm interested in by itself. But I'd love to go there anyways, just because I love the idea of being in a room so quiet or just peaceful. And I guess they say your mind starts racing and you just usually panic and leave. It's the common result.
Yeah, it'd be neat. Is there one nearby?
Yeah. The interesting part about it, it seems like you could build a pretty good setup like that yourself. And that recording studio we went to seems like something personally I would love to frame a shed like that. And then you pick out all your stuff. There's drywall that's supposed to reduce noises and all these individual components that go into it. I feel like it'd be a sort of a fun project.
It was such a mix of feelings because when I went there and she's like, oh, it's in the back. So I go to the back.
It looks like a shed.
And I'm looking at the shed. I'm like,
it's a big shed, but
it's a big shed. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I walk in and it was really nicely done. It is by all means professional.
It's got its own washroom. It's got its own space for every instrument you could imagine.
Just a nice little hidden gem that you wouldn't know
from the outside at all, which is good because I imagine the equipment in there is worth a fortune, and and all the software involved is worth a lot of money. The software itself is still the most intriguing part to me. The way that you can just record stuff on the fly, and you would have multiple takes of a certain part of the track, and just you set them up so they're all in sync, and then you could just flip through them and pick which one you want as long as it's relatively close when you press where it started at. It makes music production so quick, I imagine, compared to even where it was 15 years ago. It's incredible.
Well, I mean, it's just I don't know for sure because I don't know the technology, but I would assume like with most professional editing programs, the artificial intelligence is really good. You'd probably be able to sync up similar tracks and whatnot very easily. So
almost makes me want to produce music somehow. I don't know what I would do. Not necessarily just be a part of, I guess, making music. I can't play guitar terribly well, but maybe if I had a studio where I could play it 15 times and try to get it right, maybe it would work out.
Some people have made a good career about not being able to sing and playing guitar only okay, so you might be okay.
Save that dream for another lifetime.
Yeah, that's that's not something. One guitar class, like, yeah, not for me. I'm good at other things. I don't have time to. I love the idea. I think most men and women probably have the like romanticized idea of being able to play a guitar, being able to be, but I just don't have the time to give it, and I didn't feel like I had the skill for it.
I was put into playing guitar pretty young. I think I might have been about 10 years old when I got my first guitar and I was in lessons. I would say I peaked in skill probably about 3 or 4 years after that, so pretty young still. But the biggest thing that got in the way for me is it's sort of the problem of, you call it gear acquisition syndrome now with stuff like camera equipment and whatever else we get into. But as a kid, I just never understood why I had an electric guitar too. Never sounded right. It never, things would go wrong, things would get dirty and it would sound all fuzzy and just things like that getting in the way. And I never understood that it was something that I could maybe fix myself or save up to buy better equipment or whatever. I got too frustrated with it and just ditched it basically. Also issues with guitar teachers and stuff, not really caring as much about their job as you'd hope that they would, but as an adult, it's interesting. Like, there's been times when I've picked up the guitar and I've just tried to play a song and just learn a song. And it is so much easier to do now as an adult because just something about sticking to it. As a kid, things just seem to be more frustrating and it would be harder to get to the point where you could play it in a way that sounds good enough to appreciate. But as an adult, it's a much easier process for some reason. I'm not sure why.
There could be a number of reasons. I think that for most skill building processes now, it's a lot easier because the information is so much more readily available.
That helps. I mean, tablature, back when I was doing guitar, you would go to a music store and you could buy a book with maybe songs from a certain band, or you get these really big ones. It's like the Ultimate Guitar Book. It's got, like 150 songs in it. It's this huge book. It's pretty good, but it's kind of exclusive just due to the price. It's kind of hard to get many of those. And by the time you go through it, you maybe like 5 songs in there that you really want to play through and never get as much out of it as you would want to. But now you just search up tab and you can get any song you want. And you get different interpretations as to how to play it. So if you don't like one, you go to somebody else's.
Yep. No, that's true. In the summer after my guitar class, I tried with the tabs just to keep going. But yeah, it's definitely easier to do. And I think if I sat down, I could probably be okay. But it's not on my horizon right now.
They say that there's lots of psychological and like learning benefits to doing that. People that play a musical instrument tend to be a little bit more, I don't know what the word would exactly be, perceptive of things, a little more alert. I'm interested in that science. I mean, I'd probably play it just for those benefits alone if I could find concrete evidence for it, because it's kind of fun to do. But again, finding the time can be an issue.
I want to learn another language. That's what I want to learn.
I think that's something that everybody tries to pick up at some point in their life. And it just gets to the point where things get in the way, and then you forget all the progress you've made at that point, and you have to start over again if you want to do it later.
I did French in high school up till grade 9, so I did it all the way through.
I did the same.
And it was okay. I was never bilingual. I was never fluent in it, but I guess I understood it. But learning experience for me would, and it'd be interesting to try to do it again. Like when we went to Cuba, they would speak broken English, so you could kind of get around with English, more or less, if not completely fine.
It wasn't bad too, because I would say I learned more Spanish in the time that I was in Cuba than I've learned French in the entire history of grade school.
The point I was getting at.
So being forced into those situations is where it matters, I think.
When I was in Italy, didn't think to learn any type of Italian.
No.
You go there and, oh, well, I guess what? Like that isn't orange juice. That's grapefruit juice. I guess that means grapefruit. You just pick up things. Again, learning from the experience. And then when we were off on the days we weren't working, you learned how to get to the subway. You learned how to get to the stop. You tried to pick up and figure it out. And then once you learned it, it kind of went. We learned how to get to the restaurant. So by the end, as I said, I wasn't bilingual. I wasn't fluent. But if I had to ask where a washroom was, I could do it. If I had to ask where the subway was, I could do it. If I had to ask where the Pope was, I could do it.
Hopefully you don't have to ask where he is, because I'll point to the Vatican.
Well, yes. That was more. But no, I think that it's a good crash course into learning a language is actually just going. As long as they don't find it insulting that you don't know their language.
I mean, we have to put up with tourists who don't know our language all the time, and it doesn't really matter for the most part, unless you have to do serious interaction with them for a long-term basis, in which it can be frustrating, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. We do have the advantage of being one of the Latin-based languages in the world, English. So there's a lot of places we can go, and if it's not English, at least it's somewhat similar. You know, same text.
It's true.
If you wanted to go to, say, Russia or something like that, learning to read Cyrillic or something would be an entirely... You would have to probably just learn the words. You would have no idea how to write that down. At least you could try to sound something out with Italian or Spanish.
Yeah, that's true.
Very different. And never mind, you could think of a lot of different languages in Asia too would be extremely complex and entirely different ways that they're structured. You know, one word in their language might signify a sentence to us, and it's just this weird concept to get around.
When I was doing baby photos, I always wanted to learn some sort of Indian speak, like Punjabi or something like that.
Yeah.
But I never got around to it because I think it'd be neat to at least
know when they're bad-mouthing you?
know when they're bad-mouthing, but when you're selling the photos and whatnot, they're like, excuse us, and they stand there and they talk in their language. They're automatically assuming I don't know how to speak it. So that would be interesting. But because there's no guarantee what they'd speak, I'd still be running at like a 20 to 25%. I'm assuming they're similar in language, so if I learn Punjabi, I'd be able to work my way. Possibly.
I've learned a little bit about the languages in India, and I think there's more dialects in that country than pretty much any... I don't know what they were comparing it to necessarily, but every single area has a very different way of speaking, actually. And I don't...
Okay, so
but I know that there are certain languages in the middle that sort of tie things together, and English is one of them in India. So
well, that's what I learned. I learned there is a high population of English-speaking Indians.
Probably due to the British occupation and things like that.
But I never got around to it. But I thought it'd be cool because I'm sure there were certain times where they were insulting me. And
yes,
if I knew and if I could reply back saying, you know what, I'm not a fat white man, that would be brilliant. They'd probably go pale real quick.
Or they would argue like, really? You're not? No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They'd be surprised at the very least, because as I said, every time you go in, they're like, "Excuse us," and they stand there. They're automatically disqualifying me, thinking that I don't know how to speak it. So, and technically, they'd be right, but still, it's not nice.
No. If you're servicing a specific area where that certain languages are very common, at least you could do that, and you'd be better off. Although, if you're servicing the Toronto area, you're out of luck. There's
You're going to learn Italian, Punjabi, Ukrainian.
Cantonese. Yeah, just about everything.
It'd be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? Was it Google? Who has that?
The translate on the fly feature.
The translator on the fly, but the new earpiece or whatever. Somebody came out with something that was like real time almost. The
Bluetooth speakers that came out at the same time as I think the Pixel 2 was announced. I believe those have the feature to translate on the fly approximately.
But we're heading, I'm talking about the world getting smaller. We're heading into a situation where it could happen in one language.
It's an interesting way in which the internet's probably the biggest globalizing factor we've seen in our lifetimes, but that would change the game again, because now you don't just have people that can communicate through translators and things like that across the world. You could just go anywhere you want and understand and integrate much better into any society, whether it be on vacation or if you're going to live somewhere for a long time.
That's true.
And it requires no learning on your part, so it's very open to anybody that can afford that kind of product.
If they turn them into like hearing aids, like just really small, they put it, and if it was all That's the hard part. Is it'd be 100% perfect, like in Toronto, if it could tell what language the person was speaking, even if there was just a slight delay, and then that way you didn't have to switch it. Because in Toronto, it'd be really hard.
You don't think it auto switches?
I don't think it does.
No?
I mean, if you're going to Cuba, you know Spanish.
Yeah.
If you're going to Toronto,
It's a mix.
it's a mix.
Yeah.
So you're talking to somebody and you're like, well, sorry, what language do you speak? That's not going to work.
I mean, you could,
That's
but
true.
how often do you find yourself speaking to people that can speak almost no English, really, out of a job? Out of a work scenario?
Yeah, not really.
Casual interaction here and there, and maybe somebody on the subway or something, but that's about it.
And even then, if they assume that you only speak English, they probably don't want to talk to you.
No. People are very forgiving when it comes, like, even if it seems like people really do want to learn English when they come here, which is quite a nice thing. I know in a lot of the other countries, foreigners would come in and sort of segregate themselves from everybody else a lot more, but
It's not why you come to Canada. You
no,
come to Canada because we're one big happy family. More or less.
more or less.
They are looking to change the national anthem, though.
That's already been passed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More gender inclusive.
But what's it going to be in all our people's command?
We could look it up, I guess.
We could. Which, again, it's another thing. The research.
I would be interested in knowing what it is. Is it just going to be open to male and female, or is it going to go the whole gender studies route and go with something that's a lot more
In all
new
our,
age? I'd be really interested in seeing that.
Oh, Canada national anthem. I want to get at least a semi-reputable source. CBC. Semi-reputable.
I would hope so.
Senate
Tax
passes
dollars are paying
bill
for
to
that.
make O Canada lyrics gender neutral. I believe the Canadian public wanted a say in our national anthem, which I've seen online. A lot of people are like, it's fine the way it is.
It's been a thing, I think, that's been debated for at least, I think, 6 years is what I heard. And they've been trying to pass it for a
The
while.
House of Commons overwhelmingly passed a private member's bill in 2016 that would alter the national... When is this from? Oh, it's from February 1st. That would alter the national anthem by replacing "In All Thy Sons Command" with "In All of Us Command,"
Okay.
as part of a push to strike gendered language from O Canada. Since 1980, when O Canada officially became the country's national anthem, 12 bills have been introduced to the House to strip the gender references to sons, which some have argued is discriminatory. All attempts have failed until now.
Now, what about the religious element? Mentions God. It's not specific about which God, but
That's true. It was actually changed before anyways.
there was. When was the last time that it was changed?
1908. Well, actually,
Well, that
no,
was,
it wasn't changed
wasn't
in
it
1908. That's
made
when
in
it was
Wo-
written.
Yeah,
Song
and it
was
was used
written
for World War One.
in 1908, including an update that dates back before the First World War,
Okay.
when the author added the line that sparked so much debate. He added the line before the war. Originally it was "Thou dost in us command" to "In all thy sons command." So,
Yeah, which makes more sense for modern English.
you know what?
This is something that's existed before we even had a flag as a country, as the one we recognize today. So this is going back a long time as far as an anthem goes.
I can't remember the last time I sang the national anthem. I've stood
Probably
up
some
for
kind
it.
of sporting event. I don't.
But even then,
It's fair enough
like,
to say that I didn't
I used to
sing
sing in high school, or I used to sing in school.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I've stood up for it, but I...
Yeah, just hum along.
That's what I do in church, too.
It's this strange thing where I would say Canada has a very muted sort of patriotism. We seem to have a lot of things we identify with as far as I would say they're more political ideas, like we're very multicultural and all these different things. But as far as being really proud of Canada and this vague concept of like a national anthem, all that, people aren't going to say that you're unpatriotic just for not singing along with the national anthem or something along those lines. It's not too seriously taken, I think.
I think if you stand at attention...
What if you
take off
don't?
your hat? That's true. But then you're going
I don't
into
think I would care.
I don't know. I've never thought about it.
Nobody ever tried to do that in school.
No, but yeah, that's true. Everybody did stand. I don't know. It's you're told to stand. There's being proud of your country is important. You live here,
To be
you
debated,
prosper
I
here.
suppose. Lots of people would debate that, but I like it in Canada.
I do like it too, and I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I've never lived anywhere else,
No,
so
I guess it does sort of have a narrow perspective of things.
less narrow than other people though, because you've at least traveled. I think anybody who travels, I have met people who haven't left Ontario. Like, just think of that. Like,
It's not differences between certain countries can be quite shocking in the sense that if you go to the States, literally everyone in the States is going to feel similar enough to here. I mean, it's a little bit different of a climate, but as far as the way things go politically and the way that you interact with anything, the way you would get transportation or something is very similar. We went to Cuba
but
last year.
there'd be small differences in the States, though. Same thing in Cuba. Yeah. Like, even just being in the room and listening to TV, like, that always amazed me how many drug commercials there were. Just every commercial,
in the States.
drug.
Yes.
The American TV. So there'd be small differences. Yes, they'd be predominantly similar, but there'd be changes. We'd be going gallons instead of liters, which isn't a big deal, but it is just subtle differences.
In Canada, we're a very unit of measure fluid. We tend to use just about everything, I suppose. I guess Canada used miles as the increment for distance when traveling, I think sometime in the 70s and before, which I heard recently that a lot of people were complaining that the speed limits actually used to be higher on a lot of our major highways. It was something like 70 miles an hour, which I would like to fact check that person because that's pretty quick.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Especially in 70s cars.
Yeah. You would think theoretically the speed limit should occasionally raise because cars become more aerodynamic. They're able to handle it.
It's a heck of a debate because there's lots of people that would compare. You could look at roads where the speed limit did change over time, and you could compare accident history in those and whether or not there were fatal collisions, things like that. And a lot of people that are trying to argue for raising speed limits would say, look, there's been no increase in the accidents. Accident deaths are going, they'd be going up for whatever reason in certain areas. Maybe they're going down, but it can't be linked necessarily to just the speed. It's weird too. I mean, the way that we drive is a lot based on conditions, especially in the winter. Almost nobody's going to get over the speed limit on especially back roads in at least where we live in Southern Ontario.
Well, I know back roads are unbelievably horrible. Even with just a little bit of snow, blowing snow. Oh,
yeah, a lot of flat areas where the fields, the snow just blows right over the road. You can't see the lines or anything. I have been because I know my way around, so I take back roads, and there was. I was in the I can't remember, but I was in the falls and I was driving to Welland and I took a back way and it hadn't snowed that day. So I didn't even think about it. No.
And I almost went in the ditch like 3 times just from blowing snow and just nobody had taken it. It was basically fresh snow on the ground. So I'm driving through like almost a foot of snow just gone. It was not fun.
No. I can imagine it wouldn't be.
So
I don't kind of it would defeat the argument a little bit for raising the speed limit because people just assume that people will drive at that, but I think Canadians have a little bit more sense than that, hopefully. I don't know. You could pick certain highways out that are very well maintained where you would think a modern vehicle, let's just say anything built after 2005 or so, somewhere around there, perfectly capable of traveling speeds is probably like 160 kilometers an hour without any issue.
Wouldn't you think there'd also be a optimum? Because every
for
car
fuel efficiency. Now that's typically slower. Well, pretty much as slow as you can get it in many regards. I like crunching a lot of numbers and running spreadsheets on things like that. My car doesn't compute anything automatically for me, unfortunately, but I know a lot of them will tell you your instantaneous efficiency, and there's a big tip off. At least I've driven an F-150 where if you're doing about 90 kilometers an hour, you're saving pretty much 15% of the fuel that you would get if you were driving at 110, for instance. So it's quite a substantial difference. It's an exponential factor when you're factoring in for wind resistance. So it gets up there pretty quick. But it might matter less for certain vehicles, and you would see very little of a difference.
Just think if they change the speed limit. I know for a fact there are certain drivers who, their mentality would be, oh, you know what, they increased it to $140. Now I'm going to do $170 because
Sure.
so it's all.
But with automation, it comes a little bit different of a perspective. What if there's some kind of government program goes beyond speed cameras, beyond all the stuff, and it'll track your vehicle speed no matter where you are, and if you go above it for too long, ticket. And at that point, you could assure that nobody's going to drive crazy fast over what the speed limit is, and people could probably drive quicker in certain, or it could give you even updates. You could think of signs that would change, but maybe it's just your car's navigation system that says, hey, today conditions are great, speed limit's 145, and that's what you can get up to on certain stretches. And the bend comes up, it'll automatic. You could set it to automatically take your speed down, just make it automated at that point.
That's fair. I don't think we'll have to worry about anything like that because I think the self-driving movement, people are not necessarily lazy, but I think if the self-driving thing really takes off in every consumer type car, and you can just sit back and let it do the driving on the highway.
Everybody would be spaced out the perfect amount.
Everybody would be spaced out the perfect way. And yes, because everybody's spaced out, if you eliminated all non-self-driving cars and it was all based on a computer system, you could potentially do faster speeds, because
straight stretches and things like that.
It's all just based on a computer process. And I think even if it only stayed at 110, 100 or 120 or whatever, depending on where you're driving, you give people the automatic way to go. I wonder if the new cars could cap your speed on the highway.
Just physically, if you push the pedal down, it doesn't go any further?
Yeah, it's not going any faster.
Mm-hmm. No car like that is currently, well, I don't know if you could set it to that, but no car currently does that. There's cars with limiters in place, but it's usually well beyond the speed limit. Maybe the car's limited to 200 kilometers an hour. That's twice the speed limit anyways on the highways, so it's not restrictive in that sense.
I get nervous driving behind transport trucks. I'll speed past them.
Yeah, no, that's the general rule of thumb. Police don't tend to look too hard in your direction if you're passing at a fairly excessive speed. They don't care as much, but of course they have every right to get in your business if they decide that you're going too fast to pass, because you're still not allowed to break the speed limit.
I mean, I have never on the highway, but I have dealt with 2 police officers, one in a speed trap and one I was just speeding. Mm-hmm. And both times I wasn't busy. I wasn't in a hurry. I just a little bit too hard on the gas.
Yeah.
The first time was a speed trap, and they were very nice. They were like, "You're young." I was young. I just graduated. So I was 21.
Okay.
21. And they're like, you stopped when we said to stop because it was a speed trap. You pulled over, you had everything ready. You're nice. You weren't mad. We don't like tarnishing people's records. So there's no demerit points. There's no nothing. This is the fine. You can pay it because you're a student. There was even a deferment or something. Like you didn't have to pay it completely. Yeah. Huh. The next time, it was just a cop that pulled me over. Now, that one was worse because I was actually speeding a little bit more. Again, same thing. He's like, you pulled over. You did.
How often do you think people don't?
I have no idea. Like he was like, you pulled over right away. Okay. You're friendly. You're young. We don't. Everybody when they're young drives a little quick. I don't want to hurt your record. Ticket, fine.
This catches me a bit off guard because you of all people speeding.
That's why I don't.
When I first when I first met you, like Tilo especially was on you a lot about.
That's why I don't speed. And now I'll be a little bit more aggressive at I won't go again unless I'm passing a truck. I won't go past 120, and I'm fine with that. Tila doesn't complain anymore, so there's merit there. Nobody complains anymore, so that's okay. But no, I mean, both times probably happened within like a year, and that was 4 years before I met you. So
it's been a long time. And I guess those tickets would be off your record probably by now. So low insurance rates.
Low insurance rates. Actually, it sucked when I was doing baby photos. When I got more insurance because I was working out of my car, it was $320 a month.
Pretty high.
It was pretty high. That was for the first year. And I don't know why. I guess they were being nice, or because I was still well under 25. Second year, dropped down to 160. Like, it was just like an introductory, we're going to screw you insurance.
Be sure about it before you bring you down.
And even then, I think they knew I was lying. I wasn't lying to them, but...
That's an interesting thing, because I don't know. From what I understand, there's certain places, maybe even in America, where you don't even need insurance to drive, which that'd be a huge cost savings as far as... In Canada, everybody must be insured. I mean, and the fine for not being insured is, I think, about $6,000 approximately, which is about the price of a young driver trying to get insured on their own vehicle. So if you get caught once in a year, it's kind of the same amount of money, but it's expensive.
It is expensive.
For young drivers, mostly. They get hit unfairly, in my opinion, but I'm sure the insurance companies have some kind of mathematical way of showing that's what the rate should be for them. Tricky thing.
Yeah, the insurance wouldn't be. It'd be interesting to see the algorithms and whatnot, but I think the stereotype, and I don't know if it's true, but like male drivers under 25.
Oh yes, that one is true. There's there's myths about certain your car color mattering, things like that, but
I will say I am pretty sure, because I've never been pulled over in the car I have now.
Yes.
Only in the one I had before.
What did you used to drive?
Nothing manly either. It was a Chevy Optra.
Okay.
But this one, so I'm told, is a little bit more elderly, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it helps on the road. If they're going to, because theoretically, if they're going to pull somebody over that's speeding, if a Dodge Challenger is going a buck.
Yeah, versus me just driving an old crappy Impala.
Yeah, who are they going to try to catch?
I don't know.
I feel as though they'd go off.
It's this weird situation because you're dealing with the biases of police officers specifically, which of course you'd like to think
I'm okay with them thinking I'm an old man.
Yeah, you'd like to think they have as little
Everybody
bias as possible, but everybody does, of course. So just because we think that way doesn't necessarily mean that they would, but perhaps.
But no, that's. I wonder if it has anything to do with the car, but I'm okay with it. There was one time where I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I have a really guilty conscience. I drove underneath an overpass and there was a cop there. I wasn't speeding. I knew the cop was there, but her lights came on and I pulled over.
Yeah.
Because I was the last one. No, she had just waited for somebody else, so she just drove past me. So I was just really nice to her and pulled off the highway for her, thinking that she was coming after me, but she wasn't. So it's
interesting. I can recall a situation where I came over the Skyway Bridge over Hamilton, and when you get to the peak of the bridge, because it's very high up, you can see, I would say, probably 3 kilometers ahead of you. And the moment I crested that, I was beside a car. The car was speeding past me, I would say, and it had just passed me as I got to the top of the bridge. I myself was probably speeding a little bit, but that guy, compared to my speed, must have been going probably 140, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit higher. And as soon as he crested over, or as soon as I crested over, I saw him and I saw a cop about a kilometer up the road. The car was in the left-hand lane, and the moment the officer who was sitting on the side of the road put their lights on, that car moved over one lane, moved over the next lane, and pulled over just in front of the cop. Cop did not even move. He knew he was busted.
Like, you're doing it just to do it. You know you're caught.
Yeah. I wonder if that helped him any leniency.
Well, I mean, as I said, you pulled over right away.
Without even with the cop coming up behind him or anything.
A ex-girlfriend of mine, her brother got pulled over once, and he was in police foundations. I don't know if he continued. I don't know what happened there. But you're not supposed to have any type of record while doing policing.
No.
Driving records included. I went to school with somebody.
Not for non-criminal offenses as well. Like, let's see, get
They don't like it.
No.
It's not a good thing. I went to school with somebody who was in police foundation. She got a DUI, and she was like immediately thrown out.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
but that is a criminal offense at this point.
Gone, like disappeared from existence within 48 hours.
Speeding tickets are it's not really criminal to speed. It's breaking traffic.
Well, it depends. If you're speeding, because there's different violations, right?
I suppose they'd probably shoehorn you in with something else if you were there's racing and things like that.
That's why. You're right. The traffic ticket, no problem. Except he was going like 150 on the highway.
So we got
a
racing ticket. Yes.
And the cop said, "You realize I can impound the vehicle."
Yep.
And he told the officer, this is what he told us. We were actually in Cuba at the time, so he had to call us to say, and it was on April 1st, so we thought he was joking.
Of course.
He told the officer he had to poop, and he was racing home. Mix that with the fact that he started to cry, saying that he was in a police foundations course and he'd be thrown out and whatnot. Ooh. The officer reduced the ticket, so I guess he did get a ticket. So
yes,
but he I'm not an attractive crier. I could I don't know.
The police are not going to respond that well to that, from what I've heard. No, probably should.
But because he had to poop,
that was enough.
Mm-hmm. So keep that in your back pocket just in case.
Don't put that in your back pocket. Absolutely not.
That's funny though.
I think we should probably talk about some of the articles that you have printed off, just so we have a little bit of structure to it. Or is that the stuff from last week?
This is stuff from last week.
Damn.
Well, some of the stuff actually relates to what we were talking about. I'll get rid of the ones we talked about. You can possibly tune in to last week's show to catch up on the other ones.
I was talking about other people's news that they've already broken themselves, and it's probably dated at this point.
Well, this one's from January 24th. It's just interesting, and it is what we were talking about.
Okay.
Survey says trust in self-driving cars is growing. Because that was a big thing for a while. People are like,
they wouldn't relinquish the control to a automated thing, which rightly so. There's still bugs to be worked out. I've seen Tesla Autopilot do really scary things in some YouTube videos.
And there's that ethical issue where
who's at fault?
Well, who's at fault? But I remember listening on the radio because it was the first time that I actually realized it was making a good point. If you're driving towards like a theoretical fork in the road, and there's a wall at the end of one side of the fork that will kill you.
Yes.
Or you're going to hit 6 people. What does the car do?
It's a good question. And I don't know if Tesla or anybody else has given an answer about that.
And I remember that survey saying most people would want it to hit the wall. But then when asked if they would buy an electric car, nope.
No.
Or a self-driving car. So apparently the trust is growing.
See, you would hope it would opt for self-preservation, but then there'd be the headline, Tesla mows down 6 people on autopilot, which, from a company's perspective, they'd probably prefer you hit that wall.
That's true.
Yeah.
Self-driving technology has been inching its way into the public conversation over a few years now, but Americans' misgivings about relinquishing control to a machine have taken a seat next to all the excitement surrounding what an autonomous future could hold. Those widely held fears may finally be starting to ease, according to a new research from AAA. Compared to 2016's findings, at AAA's annual consumer survey, 15% more drivers say that they would feel safe in a fully autonomous vehicle. That's 20 million more U.S. drivers.
It's not bad. I know that sales compared to availability have been quite good on cars with autonomous features, and you could think of it a bit more widespread than just stuff like Tesla's autopilot. I know a lot of Toyotas. I've test driven the RAV4 and a couple others that have the system in place for, like, if you're going out of your lane, it'll tell that, it'll just steer you back into the right direction, which is kind of useful. Or it'll tell you if things are in your blind spot, and you can do radar guided cruise control in some vehicles, which has been a thing that's been out for a very long time. So there are lots of little automated things that do not entirely require you to relinquish control. But again, I'd like to. It also defeats the purpose still, because people have to remain in that seat, and you can use Tesla as an example again. You have to interact with the car in some way over every set amount of time, just to show that you are behind the wheel
and not
operating the
asleep
vehicle
or anything like that. And you can still be charged with distracted driving. So just because
still
you're
being
behind.
charged with impaired driving and things like that too, which, at least from my perspective, I'm not so interested in that system until I could fully relinquish control and, I don't know, write a report or something like that behind the wheel, or take a nap. That would be great.
That's very true. I was talking about it the other day, in the sense that eventually, and I think it makes sense, owning cars isn't going to be a necessity.
Yeah, it's a futurist where you would have an app, schedule your car to come pick you up in the morning, take you to work.
Take you to work. It'll be completely self-driving. If you think about it, like the amount of, depending on the work you're doing, the amount of extra work you could get done in that 20-minute, like it'd be an extra 20 minutes of work, 30 minutes, depending on what the drive was, you could really help efficiency.
Absolutely. And you could sort of, from a financial perspective, if it's not going to be, it might be a bit price gougy to begin with, just as they're feeling out how much they should charge for such a thing. You could factor in things like, it's not your vehicle, so whatever company's doing this could factor in the maintenance of the vehicle, all the cost for fuel. They're going to pick fuel-efficient vehicles and all that. You would basically get the benefit of pricing everything out over time, instead of, my car's broken down, I need to put $3,000 worth of a new engine in or something.
Because it would all be relative. So if you think that a drive from here to St. Catharines, so a 20-minute drive, costs X, and if there's costs similar to what X would be, there'd be really no...
There might be a little bit of an issue in the public side, because people are going to assess, say, their own car and say, it only takes me $3 of gas to make that trip. But the company's going to assume, okay, $3 of gas, but the car is going to and from, and there's maintenance and all these things.
That's true.
Over time, and they're going to make a bigger price up front.
But that's dependent on what vehicle they use as the self-driving. If you have somebody who says, it only uses $3 in gas, and it's a car that's an older model that may not be more efficient in gas, or the most efficient in gas, the newer models may actually be able to eat up some of that markup in the fact that they're more efficient. And yes, there'd be a like a service charge and whatnot, but theoretically, if
eventually, it probably wouldn't be at first, but eventually it probably would be cost effective enough that people would say, how can I afford to drive my own car? I have to just use the service.
If somebody told me today that
you have to crunch the numbers, don't you? You have to look at the money you've put into your vehicle, all these little pieces of maintenance here and there, the time that you lose. You say, I'm worth this amount of money per hour. What if I spent that working while going to work? Writing something down or
being self-employed. That's okay.
It is. It is.
The gas thing would be the question, but if I don't know, that being said, once it goes electric, then like if they were complete, it'd be interesting. But I think that's the way it would go.
It'd
just be better Netflix for cars.
It's a better system for electric, in my opinion, because you can think of the logistics of a car. If you have no human interaction with this thing, as far as it being serviced goes, to get a car to come back to a station and fill up on gas is probably more difficult than it driving over an induction pad where it's going to top up the battery. Plus, there's certain advantages too, where if this car is going around, it knows it can make a certain amount of trips based on how much battery it has. And then if we're using, say, lithium-ion technology, the first half of the battery charges really quick. And then, the latter half is going to slowly build up. But you could essentially have cars always just charging up to maybe half, go out to do a couple trips, then come back. And you could really use the most efficient side of that battery, even though we still have the limitations of lithium-ion batteries, which, they're great in our cell phones, but they're extremely costly, extremely heavy, and probably not going to last that long as far as things like in your Tesla. I think there's a system for like switching out batteries on long trips that's supposed to be put in place. I don't know, like if let's say we're on a road trip, you didn't have time to stop somewhere to charge. You could just, there'd be a Tesla station that you go and drop it in. I don't know if that's enacted anywhere, because I don't think you can take the batteries out that easily in a car like that. It's a very closed system. The best part about doing this podcast is we'll be able to look back and see what we did not know now. That's and true. What has happened in the future. It's going to be exciting.
I saw it on Facebook at Christmas time, like Tesla giving their clients a Christmas show. Somebody had bought, I think it was Tesla, again, not really good at the whole fact checking, but it was a Facebook video. There was a bunch of people saying, look at this. And on their Tesla phone, on their phone, there was like on the Tesla app, like a holiday greetings from Tesla. And they pushed the button and they're in front of their car, and the speakers started playing Christmas music and the car started dancing. So the doors would open and shut. Like it was running like a full Christmas demo.
Wow.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. It was kind of neat to see. Little weird.
Pretty weird.
But kind of neat to see the fact that it was able to do that. It was kind of running everything.
What if something's beside your door and just opens it?
I think it might have warned them. I don't know.
Warning, get to an open space and get out of your car.
But you would think that if the doors are self-opening, they would have some sort of sensor.
Yeah. I didn't. That makes sense. Probably not foolproof, but.
And Tesla, at least with the new car, if I remember right, it has a fully self-driving feature. Every car comes standard with it, but it's locked until you pay the software upgrade.
It's like DLC for cars.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Nobody wants that. Pay for features that you already have.
Wow. They exist, but you just have to pay to turn them on. And it is like, I mean, if you're buying a Tesla, I guess it's not a giant expense, but it's like an extra $6,000. So for the price of a good chunk of a regular car,
maybe it'll get more competitive over time in the sense that like you used to have to, what was it? I don't know how Mac OS X still does it, but you would pay for incremental upgrades, small amounts at a time, I imagine. And then I know, yeah, I would imagine you don't. And same with Windows. I think pretty much anybody who's bought anything Windows 7 and past, you would get an automatic update, and you could get to the newest version of Windows. So with more competitors on the road for people, like all these cars with software updates, maybe it'll just become open source or something like that, which is scary because it's probably more susceptible.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
we could, but again, I don't know what I was listening to, but talking about how the car company should open up the code for public scrutiny, because it's not Google, you're putting the potential customers' lives
at risk
in your hands.
Yeah.
So having the code that drives the vehicle public, at least for the people that can understand it, they'd be able to go through and potentially go through problems. Google does that in the sense that if you find a glitch in their, I don't know what I
think most products
are.
They sell, if you can hack into something and you offer that, sort of like blackmail, but in a more
Google will pay you for it. They have an option where they say if you find a glitch, you'll get paid for it. I did that in my high school.
You found a glitch?
I was able to make hundreds and hundreds of photocopies for free.
Really?
And I don't understand how it worked, but I figured
it just
out
worked.
you could do it.
Fair enough.
Not too many. It was 2009. Not too many people had laptops in school.
In 2009?
In my country high school, not too
Yeah.
many people had personal laptops. I had just got my MacBook.
I think a lot of people had laptops, at least because I was also in school in 2009, and nobody brought them. That was the thing. I think I would take a laptop to class. I'd be the only person there taking notes that way.
I brought mine because none of the classes had Apple, and since the majority of my final year was learning how to edit on Final Cut, it was more efficient for me to bring mine and edit on mine. Granted, my first laptop or my first foray into Final Cut personally was Final Cut Express, not Final Cut Pro.
Is Express a much lighter version of the software? No.
I mean, it was advertised. Basically, Final Cut Express was exactly the same, minus a few small things, but I don't know exactly what was missing, as Final Cut Pro, but you were missing the studio package, so you didn't get the like after, like the effects stuff and whatnot, the 3D rendering. It was just the editor. So it was still a great program if you weren't going to be doing any of there was like a font and type generated, like Final Cut Studio. So, but that was my first editing, mobile editing, and I had the laptop, and there was no Wi-Fi in the school. So the laptop was just
Even when I was in university, Brock University's Wi-Fi system was a little bit
Niagara
dated.
College's Wi-Fi sucked.
Yeah, it was really good by the time I had left. You pretty much had seamless like you could walk anywhere on campus and stay connected, but it was still a little bit glitchy when I was a student at first.
So I was wanted Wi-Fi or wanted internet, so I thought I'll take one of the cords out of the back of the work computers. I'll plug it in my computer, and it worked.
Yes.
Until one of the technicians came into the room because they noticed that a computer with a different name had popped up.
I used to do that in high school too, actually.
So what I did is I named
The same.
my computer the same one as that. Plugged it in. Nobody came.
No.
Started looking through stuff. I had network access, but because I had bypassed the student login, I didn't have to pay for prints. First book I ever wrote, I printed off like multiple copies.
That's amazing.
So it's a 300-page book.
Oh no.
And then I told them about it.
Well, I guess it is in their financial interest to know about said workaround.
I said I did it.
Yep.
I figured you guys might want to know about it. So, yeah, that's the most exciting hacking I've done. And it was by accident. But it's just neat that they didn't take that into account.
It's a bit more useful than what I just remember going on both high school and university computers and just seeing what you could, because none of them let you download things or install things. But there was always workarounds. I would be able to get certain games to run. I remember I got Minecraft to run on Brock University computers and things like that. It's just something you do for the sake of, hey, I can do this. I don't want to sit there and play it necessarily.
The Joe Rogan podcast on Scientology, there was an older gentleman who was talking about how he got his son in with Scientology. I can't remember his name. You might have heard it. It was a good podcast. You should go back. I'll try to find it for you.
I don't recall it, so I don't think I've seen it.
He was talking about how deep he was in, and they control your electronics. You're allowed to have it, but they block websites. You're only allowed to go through like what they want you to see. And he said one day, you didn't even know about it until you checked. The only way they didn't block it is when you were looking for a definition of something on his tablet or whatever, and it would bring up a separate browser. That browser wasn't blocked.
Oh.
So with that, he was able to Google things and figure out things, and he left.
That's weird, because you would have to turn your devices over to them?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Again, I don't have the 100% knowledge of it. I'm just going based on memory, but that's devices, stuff like that. That's a weird thing, having to go and volunteer or whatever every day.
It's way too personal to just hand over your phone like that.
Well, if you're involved in the religion, that's what you believe.
Some kind of
but no, so breaking software is fun.
It is. I'd like to maybe get into coding more. For anybody who is into coding, I know a little bit about R, which is mostly used to process large bits of data and things like that. It's very interesting as far as spreadsheets and things like that go, but I don't know much. Maybe a little bit of Python, and that's about it. Which was in school, we just edited photos with a line of text. It was very useless.
I could get my way through HTML. Like if you, I would understand it because again, I went to school a little bit for it, but I would like to learn how to do like 3D modeling, like from, like I don't know.
3D modeling?
Well, like 3D. I don't know.
I can't think of an instance where I would do that at the coding level. There's lots of good applications for that. Like, I really like a subscription to AutoCAD, but it is so expensive. I'm thinking mostly for like drafting construction projects and
I use The Sims.
Sims. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of customizability in The Sims.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of customizability. It's not to scale or anything like that. But
I've never played The Sims just because I see everybody who does, and they just fall down the rabbit hole of worrying about their virtual world way too much.
no, I play occasionally, but I haven't played in 9 months. Like it's there, and I'll go back to it for a little bit. I'll write a novel in The Sims. I'll feel an accomplishment.
Write a novel. How does that process work in The Sims?
You
just go to school to be.
No, the character that I have has a very high writing skill. He's
Okay.
named Jesse. And
See, living a virtual version of yourself.
yeah, but I'm not concerned about it
I suppose.
because I know when I turn it off, it's off. So it's not progressing. If it was constantly progressing, it needed my upkeep, but I stay away from that. Like all the Farmville stuff, I don't need it. But no, you go to a computer. You can choose what type of genre novel you want to write.
And it writes itself.
Yeah, but it's not actually like a written novel. It's just in the game. He writes it. He can sell it. You can earn royalties. So it's in The Sims. It's a nice little career path. It's like a self-employed career.
Is it a
path.
realistic economy in The Sims? Are you doomed to failure if you go about things the wrong way?
The economy is weird, but it works. Semi-realistic, like you have to pay your taxes and your land fees and whatnot, and if you don't, they will come start repossessing your stuff.
Wow.
The payment system is kind of weird. Like you can buy a fully loaded, brand new. Like you can build a decent house for 20,000 simoleons, like fully furnished and everything. So it's not quite right,
No.
but the payment system itself, like for jobs and whatnot, a minimum wage job, you might make, $110 a day or whatever, which comparably now is similar. 110 simoleons a day.
Simoleons.
Yeah, but no, it's fun. I if anything, I don't play it as much anymore because it is kind of a progression system. Just because you're living, you start single or you make a family or whatever. I just don't have time to
Don't have time for a family
to maintain
have kids.
if I don't have time for a family personally, I can't spend time maintaining somebody else's life.
A virtual family.
If anything, the only game that I'll play on a fairly consistent basis is now I'm playing through a PGA game because
Really?
yeah,
Didn't see you as a golf.
I love golf.
Really?
I don't watch it, but I like playing.
You wouldn't go to watch a live game of golf?
I can't imagine it being too riveting.
No.
Golf and baseball is probably better on TV.
Baseball's fun to play.
Baseball's fun to play, but you're
Definitely
definitely not a live
To
baseball
watch.
game. It's better on TV.
It's hard to criticize golf. I've never played 18 holes or anything like that.
Well, let's play in the summer. Every year I do it at least once, and I suck.
I would love to. I've been to lots of driving ranges. I can drive a ball pretty far.
I need to go driving range before because that's my short game's okay. My long game isn't good. I'm lucky some holes if I clear the ladies' tee. I should maybe try from the ladies' tee. That way, at least I don't have to.
What do you think's a good drive? Like, what are you hitting there? No, at the ranges they always have like signs.
I know
100
I haven't been
yards.
to a range in years, so I should probably go to at least get that. But no, the course that I've played at, they're reasonable and they'll rent you your full set of clubs, so you can just go.
I feel like golf clubs are kind of ubiquitous in that like everybody's always got a bag of them and sitting in their basement somewhere.
I have a set at home that I forgot about that my parents said if I'm going to go golfing, I might as well use. So I will probably go get them.
Where do you go golfing?
At the Brock. There's a golf course right by Brock. It's called like the Greens at Brock or something like that.
Do they serve beer?
Well, there is a clubhouse, so it would be fun. Just the first year we did it, it was Justin, Connor, and I. Last year was just Justin and I. First year, Justin, Connor, and I. My favorite moment, we had just finished, but the final hole goes back through the first, and there was nobody on it. So Justin did his whole Happy Gilmore
running at it,
and I filmed it or shot it, and I was hoping it would be at least decent. It went like 3 feet. Like he missed it.
That sounds like it'd be great.
So it's just fun. I'm not good at it, but it's not exactly amazing on a super hot day. But
I love being outside. I think I've enjoyed either way.
But no, it's fun. We should do it.
I think on that note, we can't go play golf, but I think there's other stuff that we can probably go do and leave it at that.
Yeah. I've got a few things I got to do.
I think it's been a pretty good podcast for number 2.
We're at like an hour 30, an hour 17.
Just short of the last one, which last one went pretty long.
So, no, that's good. And we still got to figure out. I got to get the footage from the last one from the GoPro. So, yeah, we could cut it. Don't know the name of this thing at all.
Thank you for watching the pilot of whatever this is, number 2. Because
that's basically
still getting there.
That's an okay title for now. The
pilot number 2
show. But, yeah. See you next week. My birthday.
See you next week.
Fun. Bye-bye.